Hello, welcome to the Online Tennis Podcast, episode 103. Today, it's just me, Jack. I'll be rattling through the Montreal and Toronto Masters finals. We're going to talk about Jannik Sinner's win over Alex de Minaur. We're going to talk about Jessica Pegula's win over Luidmila Samsonova. Just first though, it's good to be back. It's been a whole month, obviously, since the Wimbledon finals. We were talking about that literally 4 weeks ago. A little bit of time has passed since then. So hopefully everybody else is keen to see me back, and let's get started. Let's delve into the Toronto final between Sinner and de Minaur. First things first, right? First ATP Masters 1000 title for Jannik Sinner. Second Italian man to win a Masters, of course, Fabio Fognini winning one in 2019. Do you remember that in Monte Carlo? Youngest Italian man to win a Masters, 41 wins in 2023. That's the fourth most this season. Generally, this has been a wee while coming. I feel he'd been knocking on the door all year. Sinner, maybe at Masters level, he'd been struggling a little bit before this year, kind of only ever getting to quarterfinals. But this year it was semi-final at Indian Wells. It was final at Miami. It was semi-final at Monte Carlo. Fourth round at Rome. But he had been getting to the latter stages. It felt as though a big win was coming for a little while. Rematch of the next gen ATP finals in 2019 against Alex de Minaur 4 years ago, if you remember that one. Obviously the first Masters final, but also the first Masters quarterfinal for de Minaur. He'd never been past the fourth round, or the third round, or the round of 16, I guess, of any Masters previous to this, which was a pretty big surprise for me. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about Sinner. I think the most obvious thing for most people watching him, and certainly the commentators, etc., the narrative is that Sinner's serve has improved. Let's look at a few of the stats. First serve, points won, 2021, 71.1%. First serve in 2022, 74.5%. That's already 3% increase. And then 2 more percent to 76.1% in 2023. It's just kept going up and up and up. But even this year, we've seen a difference in the serve. We look at the average speed. The average speed I don't like too much, because obviously if you serve out wide, most of the time on the juice court, for example, that's going to be a slower serve than the T serve. But it is such a significant difference that I thought I would point it out. Even in Miami, when he made the final this year, serving at 118 miles an hour, the average speed here, 126 miles an hour. Again, average speed, not everything, but clear, he's up the delivery from that differential. Now, here's an interesting stat. Exactly the same number of first serves in as last year. So in terms of actually putting the serve in the court, I guess not a whole big a lot of difference, but fewer aces, right? So placement not necessarily improving. I would say he's not finding the angles, I guess. He's not finding the spot serving so much as your Novak Djokovic of the world, for example, but he is improving the spin and pace on the delivery of the serve. Remember, the indoor hardcourt season at the end of the year hasn't been and gone yet, to be fair, so maybe that ace stat will increase when he has finished that part of the season, but it's still pretty obvious that it's the actual delivery of the serve, the pace and the spin that's the first thing he's improved, right? Now, I think the most interesting thing is that Sinner has went through a lot of iterations of his serve, right? We've seen him do the pinpoint serve to platform serve and back to pinpoint serve and back to platform serve again. Darren Cahill has been tinkering everywhere here and there to try and get this serve the best kind of form it can be in. And I think a lot of credit to Cahill there. Cahill has allowed Sinner to kind of keep trying to remold this and try and find the best serve he can, because I never really thought Sinner was that happy with his serve. He knows he can get more out of it. It certainly looks like it's you look at the first serve in percentage, for example, and it's one of the lowest in the top 50. It is the kind of serve that can kind of be quite up and down, and sometimes he's not relying on it as much as other players, which is a good thing in some ways. He can obviously pick himself up with his baseline play, but against the biggest players in the world, you need that first serve to be working. I mean, you look at all the big, huge matches he's played in the last year that he's lost to Alcaraz after holding match point at last year's US Open, lost to Steph in Australia after going to a fifth, even the loss to Novak this year at Wimbledon. He was serving better than he did last year when he lost in 5. 76% first serves won compared to 69%. So obviously, even the most recent slam, I would say his serve held up under pressure there. I know the return performance was pretty weak, but I mean, if we're talking about the serve and that in isolation, it definitely is improving. And it's the one part of his game that we always thought could just keep going up and up and up, and it is getting there. Cahill has basically managed to make the take back a little less delayed. Now, I'll show you a photo from Gil Gross that's popping up on the screen now. But you can see as Sinner's releasing the ball, the racket is coming up a little earlier, but it's not coming up quicker. I think that's the important thing. So it's quite a slow rise, which means there's no hitch in the motion. Hitches in the motion obviously are conducive to less control of the serve. It does make it a little easier to time now. So before it was quite a complicated serve, I would say. There was quite a lot going on. Now keeping it a little bit simpler, keeping it a little less complicated. Sinner is finding the court more often with bigger, or he's finding the court as often with a bigger delivery, which is so important, obviously, when the margins are so slim against the best players in the world. It's actually interesting, though. So the serve obviously did carry him throughout this tournament, but the wins that he got, I would say he probably could have got through this draw last year. Right, obviously he got the walkover against Andy, and had he played Andy, I'm sure he would have lost. But he did play Berrettini. He played Monfils. He played Tommy Paul. He played Alex de Minaur. These are players that he generally would be expected to beat, particularly de Minaur, who's got a very good head-to-head against. The power disparity there is maybe a little bit much for the Aussie. So actually, I would say it's a little coincidental that he's only just winning his first Masters now. Obviously, he could have won a bit earlier. And it doesn't say a whole lot about the improvements in the serve. Now, he did get through the draw pretty tidily, great, but let's put him in a high-stakes situation of the US Open against Alcaraz, Novak, whoever, and we'll see if he can do the same thing. Yeah, again, it's like the semi-final run at Wimbledon. Yeah, he did a good job of beating the players in front of him, but actually it wasn't a particularly tough route to the semi-finals. I want to see Sinner beating somebody big on the biggest stages. I'm sure you at home are exactly the same. Let's see how the serve holds up then. Let's see if the increase in speed and the increase in spin does make a big difference. And can he find his spots under pressure? Because I feel like Alcaraz could use that pace to his advantage. It's just a thought. But nonetheless, they are improvements that have allowed him to be a little bit more certain in beating those players that he should be beating, if that makes sense. So yeah, he thoroughly deserved the title. Very, very good win for him. It was obviously a long time coming. Let's talk a little bit about de Minaur and the final itself, because de Minaur did a really good job of staving Sinner off in the baseline for the first set. Really, really good job of slow balling Sinner, central balls without too much pace to coax errors from the Italian. Quite like, this is quite a long time ago. Obviously, Sinner was a different player back then, but quite like Hubie Hurkacz in the Miami final, Sinner's first Masters final, when Hurkacz eventually won in straight sets. But Hubie Hurkacz obviously doesn't have the fastest ground strokes in the world anyway, but he was using a lot of kind of central, slower balls, slower even for him than usual to kind of make Sinner overheat. And it worked really well for de Minaur, but the lack of service effectiveness from de Minaur was so prominent. It was just impossible for de Minaur to really win with those percentages. I'm sorry, but you have to be winning more points off your serve than he was in the men's game. Sinner made 96% of first serve returns against de Minaur, which is just way too high, unfortunately. Sinner's returns obviously great, and maybe that's a area of de Minaur's game that he's going to get found out against the best returners in the world, the Alcarazes of the world, the Sinners of the world, the Novak Djokovic's of the world. Novak Djokovic, by the way, could play de Minaur in the third round of Cincinnati. Let's see if he gets found out just as much as he did in Australia. It was a good match in a lot of ways from Alex, but yeah, there's a lot of improvements he's going to make there, and the matchup is quite unfortunate for him. So Sinner, it was his to win. He certainly did win it. That second set was an absolute free-for-all. Alex's consistency dropped off a little bit. He couldn't win those longer rallies anymore. He certainly wasn't winning the shorter rallies. No 3 points for him. it was tough. But great final from Jannik Sinner. Very, very impressed with everything put together. As I say, still beat the players in front of him. Absolutely deserved it. I'm looking forward to the US Open a whole lot. Can he do the same thing? Footnotes on Toronto, by the way. Great win for Tommy Paul over Alcaraz. And go check out that TFO network point for Ivanic, because it was a rule I didn't know about. And I'm a licensed official. I should have known that rule, but I did not know it. So go check it out. Very interesting. Alcaraz, by the way, a little under par. I would expect him to pick up his game, certainly pre-US Open. Whether it happens at Cincinnati, we'll see. But yeah, I wouldn't worry too much if you are a Carlitos fan. Let's move on to Montreal. That was nice and short but sweet. When I've not got somebody to bounce off of, it's all quite quick, whatever. Apologies for my wet hair, by the way. I'm just out the shower. Jessica Pegula wins in Montreal, second WTA 1000 title after winning Guadalajara last year, starting to prove the hair is wrong a little bit. I would say this is probably one of those wins that's going to put her a little bit more on the map in the US than, say, Guadalajara. It's a shame that she does get kind of put down by the US media as much as she does, because this was a big win. She thoroughly deserved it. For me, this is probably the biggest win of her career. The Guadalajara one was good, but this was more impressive, I would have said. The final, though, very quickly, because I don't think we're going to talk about this too much, unfortunately ended up being a bit of a washout. Luidmila Samsonova getting to the final with some fantastic tennis, but because of delays in the Montreal schedule, she ended up playing Elena Rybakina on the same day as playing Pegula, and she came up a little bit rusty. Samsonova, obviously one of the hugest forehands in the game, a little bit of a loose backhand, but again, if she's feeling it, then both of those wings can be absolutely lethal, but particularly the forehand. And if the forehand's not working, it's going to be a rough day at the office. And unfortunately, I'll just caught up with her, and there wasn't really too much of a fight there. Obviously, 6-1, 6-love tells most of the story. I wouldn't have said it was the tournament's fault. The scheduling, there was some unfortunate stuff going on with the weather, and the way Rybakina's match ended against Kasatkina, that went on for so long. You know, part of the onus could be put on the Kazakhstani, I guess, at the end of the day. But unfortunate how it kind of all built up, because the semi-final between Samsonov and Rybakina ended up being a little bit of a damp squib. The final obviously ended up being a bit of a damp squib. But I do want to talk about Pegula's other matches against Gauff and Swiatek, because obviously Gauff in great form, very, very, very clutch win to win at 7-5 in the third. One of those ones, maybe, for example, like the Wimbledon quarter-final against Vondrousova, she was up 4-1 in the third, doesn't convert from there, she loses it. One of those ones that she did end up coming through, that you can then say, well, has Pegula really got a latter stage problem in tournaments? Does she really have mental kind of issues? It's a myth, definitely, for me. I'll get into that a little bit more in our US Open chances, because I don't think she's got a pressure problem. I just think she can get a little bit overwhelmed by power sometimes. And Gauff's obviously got a bit of power, but the forehands sometimes can be a little bit passive. I would also say Pegula's not got any problems redirecting serve, so even if Gauff puts in a good serve, most of the time that's going to come back. So those advantages and stuff, Pegula, it was pretty much 50-50 from the start of the match, and Pegula did a really good job of getting the coin flip in her favour. It was a very good match. I want to talk about Swiatek a little bit more, though, because Iga is going to go into the US Open as the reigning champion. Jess Pegula has beaten her for a second time this year, and I can't help but be genuinely impressed and terrified for Iga should they have another matchup at the US, because this was no fluke. I know Iga was a little tired, right? Again, scheduling has to come into play there. You can't really ignore it. She was definitely a little bit off her best game. But the strategy that Pegula employed here and in their previous 4 matches, or 4 of 5 matches, there was one match in Doha where Iga flomped Pegula, but there's a condition advantage for Iga there. Certainly, it's a lot slower. She's got a lot more time to set up her shots. So San Diego being an exception to the rule, US Open, United Cup, here in Montreal, 4 out of 15 service games in Montreal held, 3 out of 8 at United Cup, and 5 out of 11 at the US Open. In all 3 matches, including the US Open one that Iga won, she was holding serve less than 50% of the time. First serve completely neutralised, sometimes used against Iga. That comes down to Pegula's amazing redirecting ability. She is such a good returner, but specifically, it doesn't just come down to the serve sometimes. Sometimes if you absolutely rattle a ball at Pegula, it can just get redirected into a worse space in the court for you because you no advantage. You can't purely use pace. So it's exactly the same in the serve. When Iga's trying to flatten out the serve, because she lacks the placement a lot of the time, it isn't having a serious effect on Pegula. In fact, it can have the opposite effect because Pegula is so good at redirecting. Very few players able to do that against Iga. One other player that comes to mind is Bencic. Bencic is really good at doing that, and I would like to see a matchup between them on hard courts. I think that could be pretty difficult. Obviously, she came close at Wimbledon, and Krejcikova as well. Those 3 players, I think, best returners in terms of being able to redirect. So if you have a really big server, obviously like Sabalenka or Rybakina, that might not work so well. But when it's against Iga, whose placement's not quite as good, you can see a lot of return games go in the way of the returner. But Pegula in particular, just so good. Those touchy-feely kind of returns. And she did it against Samsonova a lot as well. And it is a proper worry for Swiatek should they meet again. 4 out of 15 service games, that is massive. I don't care how under par Iga is feeling. That is huge. I'm sorry. You've got to pay attention to that. Makes her a genuine threat going into the US Open because there are few players that I would feel going to a Swiatek match about 50-50. Pegula is definitely there on a hard court. She is also, obviously, this consistency, always getting to the latter stages of these slams. I would expect her to get to the semi-finals. I think she'll beat most players. I think she'll beat pretty much everybody ranked below her. It's those 3, Rybakina, Sabalenka, Iga, that have a chance of beating her. And I think she's got a really good chance against Iga. Call it about 50-50. And if you have a chance of knocking out the reigning champion, you are a big threat coming into the final slam of the year. Cotton Eye Joe, during the Iga Swiatek tiebreak. Now that was... I've never seen anything like that before. If you've not seen it, type Cotton Eye Joe Pegula into Google. I'm sure it'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. Basically, it came on during the point, and actually, Pegula was on to win that point. It was a bit of a shame. However, she rallied in that third set. Again, let's talk about that, pressure myth that Pegula is bad under pressure. She totally and completely held her own, didn't let it rattle her, came into that third set swinging, and still managed to win the match. So, and then after she won against Samsonova, the DJ put on Cotton Eye Joe. Very nice touch. She loved it. So yeah, going into the US Open, a lot of prevailing storylines on both sides of the tour, the men's and the women's. Let's look at both winners just for a second. Jannik, he had a chance last year. He probably would have been considered the favourite had he converted that match point. What does he do this year? A lot of 5th sets not going his way. All he needs is just a little bit more clutchness under pressure. And if that serve is as good as we think it is, he has a good chance. Pegula, again, just to summarise, has a chance against Iga. I don't want to undersell that. Anybody who's got a chance against Iga in a slam has got a very, very huge part of my attention. Right. Let's keep it short and sweet. I hope you enjoyed the podcast solo. Any comments, please shoot them my way on YouTube. I'd be very happy to engage in conversation with somebody since I got patched. If you're listening on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Thank you very much for listening to the Online Tennis Podcast. We'll catch you very soon. Goodbye.